Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're diving into a project that is an absolute must-have for basically any tech setup. We're building a rock-solid Linux testing environment right from scratch. We're talking about constructing your own private digital laboratory. Specifically, we're going to install Ubuntu 22.04 long-term support, and we're getting it running squeaky clean on VMware Workstation 17. Because let's face it, having a reliable virtual machine, it's a total game changer for learning, testing, developing, the whole shebang. Let's get right into it.
Now you might be wondering, how do we do this without messing up our main computer? Well, this guide gives us the perfect blueprint to completely bypass those tricky configurations, confusing hardware settings, and manual disk partitioning. We're going step by step to build the ultimate Ubuntu 22.04 sandbox, and the best part? Absolutely zero risk to your main machine.
Here's the roadmap for today. Step 1, we prep our virtual sandbox. Step 2, we build the virtual hardware. Step 3, we boot up the Ubuntu installer. And finally, Step 4, we master the manual partition.
All right, let's jump straight into phase 1. Prep your virtual sandbox, gathering the blueprint and our materials.
Our target today is a flawless, perfect installation of Ubuntu 22.04.5 LTS. You probably know this one as Jammy Jellyfish. It is incredibly stable, hugely supported across the board, and honestly, it's just the absolute perfect foundation for a really robust sandbox environment.
Okay, before we start building, let's do a quick inventory check. Now, the guide stresses a super crucial point here. You absolutely have to ensure that Intel VTX or AMD V is enabled in your host computer's BIOS. If you don't have that hardware virtualization turned on right at the motherboard level, your VM is either going to be crawling along at a snail's pace, or it just won't boot at all. So definitely check that. Besides that, you just need VMware Workstation 17 installed, a downloaded Ubuntu ISO file, which comes in at around 5 gigabytes, 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 120 gigabytes of free hard drive space on your host machine.
Moving right along to phase 2. Build the virtual hardware, essentially constructing the chassis.
So, following our blueprint, Step 1 is just launching VMware Workstation 17. Go ahead and click File, and then select New Virtual Machine.
Once you've got that new virtual machine wizard open, it's going to ask you for the configuration type. I definitely recommend just hitting Typical here. It really streamlines the rest of the setup and saves us from a bunch of unnecessary headaches down the line.
Next up, you're going to point the software to that Ubuntu ISO file you downloaded earlier. Once you select it, VMware is super smart and will immediately detect it as a 64-bit Ubuntu installation. Nice and easy.
Just make absolutely sure that the file path points directly to your ISO file so the wizard knows exactly what installation media to use.
Now let's talk about giving this virtual machine some real muscle. To optimize things, the sweet spot recommended here is allocating 4 virtual CPUs. You can configure that as 2 cores across 2 sockets. For memory, we want 8192 megabytes, which, if you do the math, translates exactly to 8 full gigabytes of RAM. Set your hard disk to 120 gigabytes and leave the network adapter on NAT. That NAT setting just means the VM will perfectly, seamlessly share your host computer's internet connection.
All right, you'll see a summary screen pop up next, and this is kind of your final blueprint check. Just verify your memory, processors, and drive size against those recommended settings we just talked about. Looks good? Great. Click Finish, and boom, your virtual machine is officially created.
Next up, Phase 3. Boot the Ubuntu installer, waking the machine up.
Okay, hit power on. Doing that triggers a super brief grub bootloader sequence. Don't blank or you'll miss it, and then it drops you right into the Ubuntu welcome screen. Just select English to get started.
Now right here, the guide specifically warns us to explicitly select Install Ubuntu, not Try Ubuntu. Remember, our goal is to build a permanent, rock-solid sandbox, not just run a temporary live session.
For the keyboard setup, honestly, just leaving the layout and variant on English US works perfectly for pretty much 99% of setups.
Next, it's going to ask what kind of installation you want. The source material heavily advocates for the normal installation. Why? Well, rather than going with a stripped-down minimal setup, the normal install ensures that all your web browsers, utilities, Office software, and media players are baked right in and immediately ready to go.
Oh, and right underneath that normal installation option, make sure you check the box that says Download updates while installing Ubuntu. That's absolutely vital because it applies the latest security patches right away, keeping your new sandbox safe and secure from day one.
All right, deep breath, we're into the final stretch. Phase 4, master the manual partition. This is where we wire the brain.
Okay, pause right here. The guide hits us with a really stark warning. You must select something else to manually create the partition layout. Any other option will erase your disk automatically. Now yes, erasing a virtual disk isn't going to fry your actual host PC, but opting for the manual route here is absolutely crucial for learning how to properly structure a Linux file system. So let's do it right. So, just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the installation type list, select that Something Else option, and click Continue to unlock the Manual Partition Manager.
Here is the exact mathematical blueprint we need to follow for our 120 gigabyte drive. It breaks down into 4 specific mount points. First, an 800 megabyte EFI system partition, and you want that formatted as FAT32 at /boot/EFI. Second, a standard /boot partition, also 800 megabytes, but formatted as ext4. Third, an 8 gigabyte swap area. Notice how that perfectly matches the RAM we allocated earlier. And finally, the big one, 100 gigabyte root partition formatted as ext4. That's where your OS and all your files are actually going to live. To start actually laying that out, select your blank virtual disk, it's typically labeled /dev/SDA, and click New Partition Table. This initializes the drive as a GPT partition table. Once you confirm it, you'll see your 120 gigs showing up as free space, completely ready for you to carve out those 4 sections we just went over.
Once you lock those partitions in, the installer just takes over and handles the rest. And before you know it, you are looking at a safe, perfectly partitioned Ubuntu environment built entirely from scratch. So, the only question left for you is, what are you going to build inside it first?